quite an honor. On behalf of all 4,000 members of the Inland Valley Association of Realtors, I want to congratulate and honor IVAR member Vicky Lobo for being selected a winner of the National Association of Realtors Good Neighbor Award. Through your efforts with your community-based nonprofit, Knock Knock Angels, you've provided housing essentials to help single parents, veterans, and elderly individuals transition out of homelessness and back into society. Vicki, your giving attitude represents what's best about our community, and you represent what's best about being a realtor. Congratulations again, Vicki, and you've made the Inland Empire and realtors everywhere proud. And with that, Vicki, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself and show us that gorgeous award.
Oh, well, thank you so very much. I am honored to sit here and actually be on this call amongst my peers and other professionals in the real estate community. You know, this real estate is a true passion of mine. I love it to its core. But even more than that, I love serving our community. I was born one of those children that couldn't stand seeing a single homeless person on the street. And I've been able to merge it with my real estate career. So this awesome, beautiful little award arrived in the mail from the National Association of Realtors, and I am so honored. I thank you all for taking giving me an opportunity to have a platform to speak on what we do. Knock Knock Angels was founded almost 7 years ago with just a vision. I got cancer and thyroid cancer, and I got 7 of my girlfriends together, and I said, you guys, we're enjoying our lives. We go to dinner, we hang out, but what do we do to give back? All of us in our real estate profession make decent money, most of us do. And you know, we need a platform like this to be able to show that we love our communities and we give to our communities. I got my girlfriends together. We started actually giving to those in need. And this charity has blessed over 90 families, provided housing essentials and taken veterans off of the streets, and single parents with their children, helped them get shelter. And you guys, I am so tongue-tied. It's so difficult. I have so much to say with so little time, so I'm not going to bore you with it. But let me tell you this, what we are doing is touching lives. And this is a national award. And now I've got celebrities calling me. When that happens, you know something great's happening, right? So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share what we do. So please go to our website and look us up at knockknockangels.org. Also, I think the very best thing you can do is
Oh.
Did we?
Your audio is fading, Vicki.
still fading?
Better.
Better.
Okay, so I won't take a lot of your time, but please, you can find us on Google. You can Google Vicki Lobo and Knock Knock Angels at knockknockangels.org. We are very, very social media savvy, so we're on almost every platform. And I'd love for you all to find out what we're truly about and join us. Some of the real estate offices out there should actually jump on board and adopt a family. You guys, when you find out what that's about, you'll need to get a tissue box out, because it will tear you up. All right, so the Christmas holidays are here. We're going to be, just did 16 FEMA trailers in the city of Victorville, and we were able to provide housing and shelter for 16 families and veterans. So if you all would like to find out more information on that, I'd love for you to contact us, all right? So that's really all I have to say. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm honored.
Thank you so much, Vicki. And it's just, yes, everybody, you can apply. I saw Yvonne. I have one last exciting, it's just so great that I get to do this. Let you know that IVAR will be contributing $5,000 towards your nonprofit. And we truly have a history, and we want to continue that to support our Realtor members, and we're just extremely proud of you. So just thank you for everything you do, and you will be receiving that little gift from IVAR.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The last bit of information, we just got yesterday keys to our own facility in the city of Rancho Cucamonga. We've been in storage units for the last 6 years. And I got keys. Our new facility is on Trademark in Rancho, and that $5,000 is going to really help. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. One last thing before I turn this over to Mark. I always make a plug. This is no different this month. Please, please, please reach out to me or any of our exec staff team, any of us, if you want to be a member of any of our committees, and just let us know, and we're going to get you on there. So we want you to participate. We want you to be a part of this great team and association that we have. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mark.
Very good. Thank you, Donna, and congratulations, Vicki.
Thank you.
I will coordinate with you on that check. I'm assuming you'll take a post-dated check. That's all right. I'm kidding, of course. We'll pay. And just to let everybody know, the NAR award she won, the Good Neighbor Award, there are only 5 realtors in the country every year that win that award. It is a very prestigious award, and I'm proud and happy to say that this year, one of those 5 is an IVAR member. And Vicki, you've done a great job, and we want nothing but growth and prosperity for your organization.
Thank
so
you
with that,
so very much.
Great. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our program today. We have a number of speakers. Our featured speaker today will be Ms. Farrah Wilder from CAR. In addition to Farrah, we're going to have a panel discussion too a little later on after her comments. And then we're also going to be very sensitive to our time today. Farrah has to leave promptly before 10 a.m. due to the fact that she has an NAR Zoom meeting to participate in some of her committee activities there. So today we're going to get kicked off with a fair housing and diversity discussion. And with that, I will formally introduce Farrah Wilder. She is California Association of Realtors' newly appointed Chief Diversity and Equity Inclusion Officer. Now, prior to working with CAR, Farrah was a realtor with Compass Realty and founder of the Wilder Group, a real estate team based in Oakland, California. She served on the board of directors with the Oakland and then the Oakland-Berkeley Association of Realtors from 2014 through 2017, and she was chair of the 2018 CAR Federal Committee. She earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Michigan and her JD Law degree from the University of Wisconsin, which makes her both a Badger and a Wolverine, which is a strange hybrid animal. I will not allow you to discuss that, but nonetheless, very good schools, great degrees. And also joining Farrah today after her comments will be Kama Burton. She is the current treasurer of IVAR, and she is the president-elect in 2021. And she also chairs IVAR's Fair Housing and Diversity Committee, and also past president Doug Shepard. Doug currently sits on the board of directors for the Fair Housing Council of Riverside and also on the Southern California Civil Rights Institute. So with that, I will then turn it over now to Ms. Farrah Wilder. Good morning, Farrah.
Hi, good morning. I'm really excited to be here with my extended realtor community. Thank you so much for having me, Mark. And congrats to Vicky Lobo on your award. That's extremely exciting and so wonderful that you're representing our community and doing such important work. So I'm just honored to be with you and all of these incredible, inspiring leaders. And I will say that, you know, since I was a realtor for 13 years in a tough market, I know how hard it is to do what realtors do on this call and have the utmost respect for it. And I'm really, really honored to be supporting our realtor community with tools to make sure that everyone can achieve their dreams of homeownership. So it's really wonderful, amazing, and an honor to do this work and to share it with you. And I'm also extremely thrilled to see that you guys have started a Fair Housing and Diversity Committee. So congrats to the group for taking that big step. And you are in wonderful hands with Kama Burton. So congrats on that. I think it's really, really important to hold space for the discussion, and that can look like a task force. It can look like something that an association would do to allocate time for education events on a regular basis. It can look like a committee, which is what you guys have done. And I think it's just really important because it's a very trendy and hot topic right now. Fair housing, diversity. We have a lot of things in the news. There are unfortunate events that are leading our community to be very reflective. But as we know, with so many other important issues that impact our industry, it's easy for us to get distracted. We have fires in California. We have a tight housing market, supply issues. There are so many things that we are faced with that without holding space for this discussion, we can easily be distracted. And yet, and I don't have to get into the numbers for folks to know, I mean, they've been discussed over and over, that we have persistent homeownership gaps that are facing our communities of color. So I think it's huge to hold the space, just like we hold space on our committee for government affairs and other things that we deem important. So congrats to you on that. And I also think that, even though, these issues are on the radar for some of us, it's a continuum. So there are folks who are in different places with their level of education about fair housing and diversity, and whether they're prioritizing it as an issue that they're wanting to look at. Some of us have read The Color of Law, and it's quite unfortunate that this information, this recent history, it's in some of our lifetimes, some of these things that happened, and some of these things that are still happening, that we do not know about them without reading these books and getting this education. And also, I think some of us aren't aware, and we're starting to learn about our local, state, and national associations' involvement in some of the policies that led to the discrimination, that actually made discrimination legal, and that have then resulted in the persistent segregation and disparities that we see now. So it's important for us, as realtor leaders, to understand what our history is, and then we can have an informed discussion as to what we might do about the results of what our associations were involved in. And then, of course, there's other reasons why fair housing and diversity are important. And I would say that they're two sides of the same coin. Some people throw them in very different places. And I love that you guys have a community that puts them together, because we have fair housing issues. They impact communities that are underrepresented in homeownership. We can speak about communities of color, but we also have the LGBT community. We have disabled folks. We have groups that have homeownership challenges and issues, and yet we'd like to try to address them. And what better way to address them and really understand those issues than to have the folks from those communities at the table in leadership to let us know what are their communities facing, what are their families facing, what have they experienced in their lifetime, as we grapple with what are the best solutions for addressing these issues. So diversity has a lot of benefits. I mean, we talk about how diversity is great for coming to a more reasoned and well thought out conclusion on a matter. We talk about diversity as a way to address past harms, that we haven't had everybody in the room, and that has been an injustice, but also, if anything, to truly understand an issue, having folks from those communities in the room can be very, very helpful. And so I want to just kind of also speak about some of the things that CAR is doing around diversity and fair housing. So I'll back up. The reason why I work for CAR is it's coming out of strategic planning over the summer and through the fall. And as you know, I feel like we've had about 3 or 4 different years within 1 year into 2020. We started off with, environmental, a housing crisis. We had a pandemic. Then we had all of the fair housing things that were coming up. And some of that stuff started in 2019 with the Newsday expose, the Long Island investigation, but we've had a lot of different shifts in 2020. And one of the things that came forward, and we're still dealing with the pandemic, we're still dealing with wildfires, but one of the major things that came forward that our members were really speaking out about was, what are our realtor associations going to do about persistent racial disparities in homeownership, about persistent discrimination that's becoming apparent within our industry. And so strat planning at CAR decided to hold space in a better way, in a more formal way for the discussion. Of course, CAR has had diversity staff. It's had diversity initiatives, so this is not new for CAR, but the Strat Planning Committee decided to hold additional space for diversity and fair housing. And it's a pretty ambitious set of goals. It's really far reaching. It reaches into the education realm, public policy, housing affordability fund with, considering ways to better support down payment assistance programs, working on diversifying leadership and creating more pipelines for folks of color and underrepresented groups to get into leadership, strengthening relationships with our multicultural real estate groups, KREB, ARIA, NAREP, and to that end, since that is quite a lot to do, and also we're still, as a lot of folks in our community are, learning about these things and building competency around how to be more diverse and inclusive, how to grapple with fair housing issues within public policy, particularly when they aren't as apparent. CAR decided to hire staff and also create a task force. So here I am. I am the staff that is supporting that initiative, and also to that end, responsible to all of the things I mentioned and additional education for both, our leadership, and our membership and the community on fair housing. So I want to tell you that we had a great first meeting of the task force. The officers convened a task force. There are 16 people on that task force from all over the state, folks who represent, we have the immediate past president of KREP on there. We have members of, and I think they just changed their name, but the Black Business, BBC, Black Business Coalition Council. Now I'm blanking on what the C was for, but they just changed their name. but these are CAR directors that who are African American and have been meeting for a while and are formalizing that group in affiliation with CAR. We have members from NAREP on this group, from the Pride Real Estate group out of LA. So we have a really broad array of folks who are on Women's Council, ARIA, on this group. And what their mission is I'll just read it: exploring comprehensive public and member fair housing engagement efforts and education campaigns that are designed to narrow the racial homeownership and housing quality gaps, considering fair housing law enforcement and testing initiatives, determining processes for evaluating future and current CAR legislative policies for fair housing applications, exploring initiatives to promote and foster diversity and inclusivity within the realtor community at all levels of organized real estate. And that diversity initiative has, the group has decided to also add leadership development to that one, refining and defining the appropriate CAR governance structure to support comprehensive fair housing and diversity goals. So that, and there's a lot within there, a lot within the strat planning augmentations that was nutshelled there, but essentially what this is considering some changes to CAR's governance structure to better assess and understand and hold space for fair housing and diversity, to make sure that it doesn't fall off the radar, and to make sure that these issues are properly vetted and discussed within CAR. And so I'm really thrilled to be assisting with that. And the staff, we have 2 staff members on that committee. The chairs are Janet Dorsey, who has held a number of positions within CAR committees, and also Alan Okamoto is the vice chair. He is the founder of ARIA, the Asian Real Estate Association of America. So it's an amazing group with a ton of folks who have a variety of experience there. And so some of the current things that we're working on, because we understand that this task force is going to take, hopefully sooner rather than later. The mandate is that we're supposed to be coming up with recommendations by the fall, but there are immediate things that we are working on just because this is something that is a topic of importance. People are looking at it. There's an opportunity to engage in the discussion while folks are receptive. So we have a number of initiatives that are kind of developing and ongoing. Again, the BBC Black Business Caucus, which has changed their name. I think it's like the Black Real. I don't want to say what it is because I have to look at it, because they had a number of options, but they are becoming formalized, and you're going to see that they will have more events coming up at the CAR meetings. We're working to hold space with that group. The Latinx Professionals Network has also kind of debuted and rolled out. They have a Facebook page that I encourage you all to look at and join. There's a newsletter with that community. We of course have Woman Up, so that's pretty ongoing. And we also have Deliberately Fair Housing, which I have my background. So Deliberately Fair Housing is a group of CAR directors that created a Facebook page, and it's a community for anyone around the country, anyone who is interested in and concerned about fair housing and diversity. And so this group has hosted a book discussion. We talked about race for profit. I encourage everyone to read the book Race for Profit. And we're going to have another book discussion on caste by Isabel Wilkerson. That's going to be December 9th. And then we are also going to roll out education sessions on the first and third Thursday. And so we're in the works for planning that. I think the first one will happen on November 19th. We also have on December 8th, and this is not deliberately fair housing, but CAR has a Steps Towards Homeownership program that we're going to be presenting. We've done that for many years, and that is essentially education for realtors on, kind of how to help prepare buyers for homeowners, loan options, down payment assistance programs, things for that. We're going to be doing, of course, we always have our leadership conference with the chairs of committees and extended CAR leadership. We're going to add implicit bias training and fair housing history training to that conference this year. We're doing a lot more to evaluate public policy for fair housing implications. And also, you'll see quite a bit more programming within CAR at each of our board of director meetings and in between on fair housing. One of the more recent ones was the buyer letter seminar, where we kind of talked about the fair housing implications of buyer letters. So you'll see quite a bit more programming there. And then finally, you'll notice that we're going to really start featuring some of our our communities of color that are involved in CAR. So we have Black History Month coming up early next year. That's in February, in conjunction with our board of director meetings. So we're going to start having more programming during the winter meetings around Black History Month. The Asian Heritage Month is in the spring, and so we'll have more programming in the spring around that. And of course, Latinx Heritage Month in the fall, and of course around our LGBT community. So those are some of the things that we're doing. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And we also, so I was giving input. I was just like all of you guys here, passionate realtor, concerned about all of the communities that we serve. And because of that input, and CAR listens to input and cares about input, I'm in this position. And I want to encourage all of you, if you have feedback or ever need anything, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm very accessible. I'll put my email address in the chat. So thank you so much. And I'm here for questions and just glad to be a part of the group today.
Very, very good. Thank you, Farrah. Just to let everybody know, what we'll do is we're going to record today's meeting, and then we're going to post it on IVAR's website, and there'll be additional links on that website that'll have a number of things, including the book, The Color of Law, written by Richard Rothstein, which is a fantastic book, and everybody who works in real estate, and quite frankly, if you're an American, you should read it. In addition to the Newsday Long Island study that she referenced earlier. So there's going to be some resources that go along with this video that we'll provide to all of our members. So with that, I will now introduce Kama Burton. She is our current treasurer here at IVAR, and she's also the chair of the Fair Housing and Diversity Council. Good morning, Kama. Maybe you can take a couple of minutes and introduce the committee and some of the activities and goals that are before us.
Sounds good. Good morning, Mark. Good morning to everyone. Thank you so much, Farrah, for coming and being with us. We actually were having conversations saying that we were going to start this here at IVAR, and now you see we're here. We're doing it. So I want to show my keys. So anyway, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about what CAR is doing and the direction they're going, because like Farrah said, this is a marathon, not a sprint. This is not something that just happened. Like last year, we celebrated 50 years of fair housing. A lot of people thought that was enough, and they were shocked when the Newsday story came out, and they couldn't believe what was happening when, for many of us, it's something that we hear and know about every day. It's just unfortunately, it's our reality. I don't know, Vicky Lobo, congratulations. I wanted to tell you congratulations. I love what you're doing in the community. Community is everything. So get involved in your community. We sell the community. We should be giving back to the community. So congratulations. I think it's beautiful. And my office is looking at adopting a family. I'm excited about it. So I'll be calling you. We started our diversity committee, our fair housing and diversity committee in September. And for those that are on the committee, in lieu of our meeting for this month, we have today's meeting, and we'll reconvene in January, where we'll have a panel. We're going to have quite a few things we're doing, and similar to CAR, we want to partner with our local our local chapter for NARAB, which is called IEAOR, which is the Inland Empire Association of Realtors, and then ARIA and NAREP. So we'll be linking up and doing some things with them. So our mission statement is the IVAR Fair Housing and Diversity Committee serves as an advocate of fair housing practices and promotes equal opportunities in housing and further diversification, within the real estate industry to better serve association members and their communities. The committee aims to increase opportunities for members to actively participate and provide education to support the real estate industry. And here are our committee goals. Our last meeting last month in October, we all agreed to these 5 committee goals. The first one, outreach to members for diverse constituency to participate in the Fair Housing and Diversity Committee and association committees, task force, and leadership activities. Number 2, develop specific programs and activities, educational training programs, special events, et cetera, that promotes and fosters the purpose of Fair Housing and Diversity Committee. The next one, number 3, will be create a Fair Housing and Diversity IVAR webpage that includes resources and information for members and the public. Number 4, coordinate and integrate with key stakeholder groups, Fair Housing Council, Realtors, as I mentioned earlier, and more. The activities and mission of IVAR's Fair Housing and Diversity Committee. And finally, have a positive impact on fair housing and diversity issues related to the Inland Empire housing landscape through education, exposure, and strategic partnership. So with that said, we want all to be involved. You don't have to be Black, you don't have to be Asian, you don't have to be Hispanic to be involved. We want everyone to be involved because fair housing affects each and every one of us that are out there working in the industry, selling houses, brokerages. Everyone is invited to meet with us. We meet the third Thursday of each month at 2:30. It's only an hour. And the goal is to get the input from the members. This is not led by one person or 2 people. This is to get the input from the members as to how we were able to come up with our goals and our mission statement. So with that said, thank you so much. And if you guys have any questions, I'll put my email address in the chat as well. If you would like to be on the diversity committee, make sure you send me your information and we'll make sure to add you. With that said, I'll give it over to Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Kama. Doug Shepard, past IVAR president, and now you are currently a board member with both the Fair Housing Council in Riverside and the Civil Rights Institute. How in the world did you get involved with those groups? And tell me a little bit about why you serve on those different nonprofit groups.
Well, I'd be happy to. Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Madam President. Donna, you're doing a great job this year. Kama, so pleased that you are our leader in this realm. And Farrah, so exciting. I'm so happy that that this is going on. All right, you wanted a real question. Why is a middle-aged white Republican involved in fair housing?
Wait, did you say middle-aged?
Yeah, middle-aged. All right, well, I plan on living to be 110, so just why? Because it's important, but more importantly, or more to this point, and I don't want to be, dangling all this crap, but you asked a question. My background is I grew up in Los Angeles. I went to a Catholic high school that was predominantly populated with African Americans. Over those years, I learned a lot about why and where people were living. I remember driving home Alvin Bouchard to the middle of Watts after football practice. He was the tackle on my football team. And we drove over there, and Alvin, we went there and met his mother. And I left, and I'm driving through an African-American community of Watts, and this is 1973-4. And back then, I went back, and the next day I said, Alvin, hey man, I want to ask, why do you live there? And he said, because that's where they let us live. And it was kind of a shock to me, like, oh, now I get it. You couldn't live anywhere, or your parents couldn't buy anywhere else. Now, take that for what it's worth. It's just a kid, and I had a realization. I don't know if I ever communicated that story before. But you asked me why I'm involved in fair housing. Fair housing isn't just fair housing, it's anti-discrimination. We call it fair housing, but it's anti-discrimination. And over the years, there's been a lot of discrimination. Obviously, in the past, realtors have been involved. We have to look at our history. Just Google block busting and you'll see signs that say realtors holding signs that says, you know, block busting. So I wasn't really prepared. I wasn't really going to answer this question. I didn't know you were going to ask this question. But my history is that I also had a grandfather who was blatantly racist. Now, he didn't know he was blatantly racist. After 4 years in high school and him interacting with the people and Malvin's parents and other people's parents, he changed. So at 17 years old, I realized there's discrimination. It is caused by racism, and it is obviously can be helped by interaction between people. So then I become a realtor. The first open house I held was at 110th in Normandy. The first open house. And in that community, I saw great community, strong families and all that. I will tell you that I also seen, I've been in a car and Kama, you know, God, I didn't really mean to get on this, but Kama said something about what she deals with. Let me tell you, from this side, every once in a while I'm in a car, happens every few years, and somebody says something like, hey, is there a lot of whatever in this neighborhood? And it's somebody that looks like me asking that question, comfortable because they're asking me that question. So 3 things you can take from that answer. 1, there's racism. It's been around a long time. And 2, it's still here. And whether they feel that they can do it or not is why I'm here. So the other question is, how did I get on this council? Because I was asked to. Mayor Loveledge and Rose May asked me to serve on this because 10 years ago when I was the president, we started a fair housing consciousness. We had a lot of fair housing during my presidency in 2011. And during that time, I got to know Rose Mays really well. And then I served on some city committees, and they asked me to be on this, to pull together, to be the liaison to realtors also. So that was a lot more answer to your question than this, but if you allow me to, I'd like to talk about fair housing and how we can get together. Is that okay?
Yeah, take a minute or two.
Fair housing, I serve on the Civil Rights Institute of Southern California. We are, and the Fair Housing Council of Riverside County. Those 2 organizations are designed for 2 reasons. 1, the Fair Housing Council is to promote and address fair housing issues such as anti-discrimination in our county. It is a nonprofit, but the primary goals are to educate and to address issues. It is a nonprofit, but it does help people find the resources if they feel they've been discriminated against, to help rectify those situations. But it also is a real education. And over the years, IVAR has partnered with the Fair Housing Council to educate. So that's the number one thing that I'm interested in, is educating our realtors. Secondly, the Civil Rights Institute is an organization that is to educate and to highlight fair housing, civil rights issues in our area. So what can we do together? Well, we are lucky to have these 2 organizations. We are currently building, in partnership with a number of other nonprofits, 72 housing units in downtown Riverside on Mission, across from the new library we're building there. And we're going to have ground floor office space for the fair housing, which will have a permanent home now that they'll own. And secondly, that Civil Rights Institute will have a permanent home in Riverside, in our community. And what they will do is also have a space there for education, for arts installations, for people to bring field trips for kids. And it will highlight civil rights leaders, civil rights history, civil rights activity, and current activities in the area. We're very excited to have these people here. IVAR donated a good chunk of change, over $10,000, to help us kick this off. And also we have a lot of other nonprofits. So forgive me for that intro there, But I am passionate about this because of the following reasons. I understand that fair housing and anti-discrimination is not just good for those to fight, or the education is not just good for them, but it's also good for the community. So I am going to act to coordinate the activities here to give you resources, Kama, and if CAR wants to get involved in our local area, Farrah, to help you bring standing resources that in already we have education programs that we can just plug in with you and to do that. So that's why I'm involved. That's why I think this diversity and fair housing organization at IVAR is important. And then I'm so excited to be part of California Association of Realtors. Once again, when they are on the forefront of something that is one, well, it's long overdue, quite frankly, but two, that it is taking the right position. I will finish with this. I don't see these as political organizations or taking positions other than fair housing is good for the community, it's good for the agents, it's good for the community, and that any resources we can bring and anything that we can do to educate and to help with changing people to understand that discrimination still exists and it can be cured on a one-on-one level if we educate people enough. So God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. And not only is fair housing a good thing, it's also the law, which is essential, and we have to understand that as well.
I just stress that the law has not helped the way this education will help.
And you're right. There's been a lot of challenges with that. Farrah, let me ask you a question. I know you have to leave in a few minutes, but one of the things you talked about was the partnerships that CAR has with a variety of groups. I'm hoping that those partnerships also extend to the local associations relative to the efforts that we're undertaking. Has there been much discussion or thought about that?
Yes, absolutely. And it's actually just a personal goal of mine to remain connected with local associations, but through the task force, one of the things that's before the task force is to formalize a governance structure that I hope will really make sure that through a diversity committee that there is a place at CAR to kind of make sure that all of these groups are connected. And what I will say is that in Kama, we should connect on this, and I'd love to make sure that we're in discussion with your Fair Housing and Diversity Committee. We're compiling a list of all the diversity committees across the state in conjunction with SFAR. So their diversity committee chairs is really interested in kind of volunteering to kind of take up, that project of finding out who's doing what. And through that, we hope to kind of be a part of and support, the discussion amongst all of the different groups and participate, because this is not a competitive, I'm doing my thing and keeping it to myself type of thing. Like when we're realtors and we have our proprietary information, this is, an all hands on deck. There are best practices, or there's something that might work in one community that can transfer over to another community. It's both the law, it's both about our professionalism, and it's really important for us to be sharing information across different regions and areas. So part of what I'm doing is making sure that I'm in communication within California, outside of California, at the state and NAR, with all of these different efforts to make sure that information is flowing. And I'm glad to continue to be a part of the discussion happening both at the local associations and IVAR and connecting everybody.
Great, thank you. Doug, you made a comment regarding the law and how it's not always been favorable to solving this problem. In fact, up until even in the early 70s, the law was part of the problem. And that book, The Color of Law, specifically addresses that. John Mankey, I see you on this call, and not that I'm going to necessarily call you out, but you can certainly pull yourself off of mute if you'd like. I know you're reading that book, and we'll make it available to all of our membership. But John, did you have any maybe comments on that as you're kind of working your way through that book?
Only that it is really such an eye-opener. I would recommend everybody read it, because I don't think most of us realize how much our federal government was involved in housing discrimination, and how these neighborhoods got created by our government, essentially. And when we talk about systemic problems and racism that were happening, and that are still happening today, these are things that we created in just our recent history. And I'm ashamed almost of where we were and how we got there. And I wish everybody would read that and get a better understanding.
Absolutely, John. I had the same sentiment when I read it. It is chapter after chapter of detailed analysis and writing addressing this issue. This is not individual cases of people and maybe their racist attitudes. This was absolutely systemic, as you said, and it went to the heart of local government, state government, and federal government kind of working together to create a very strange environment that perpetuated separation of people and blatant discrimination, and including even, well, anyway, read the book. We'll have it available to our members. It is astounding when you read it. And it's not a difficult read either. It's actually easy and very compelling once you start reading it. Are there any questions for our panel speakers, either Kama or Doug or Farrah Wilder? Farrah has to leave here in probably a minute or two. So if you have any questions, you can either pull yourself off of mute or just type it in and we can address it via reading it out loud. Any questions? Oh, Farrah has about 10 minutes. She's going to go. Okay.
Well, Farrah, would you like, we would love, the local fair housing would love to work with CAR, if I may speak for local fair housing. So however we can connect or give you resources, we're there.
Thank you so much, Doug. We will absolutely, I actually have noted on our, we have kind of a running list of all of the associations and the whether an association has a committee, so we can be sure to be connected. So, as we're kind of reaching out to groups and helping to foster these conversations, we'll keep in touch. And also if you want to join Deliberately Fair Housing, we a lot of members of that group, including myself, post some of these discussions we're having about books. In addition to The Color of Law, I recommend Race for Profit. Kama is actually one of the people who let me know about this book again, and I listened to it. It is kind of a dense book. She's a professor. Lots of research went into that book, but it's kind of like, it takes up where Color of Law left off after the Fair Housing Act was passed, and how still, there were some problematic policies and problematic implementation of some things. So, but anyhow, we are having book discussions. We're putting some of the things that CAR is doing on Deliberately Fair Housing, because that's one of the major places for that discussion, and some of the things happening around the country. So, we're communicating with people there. Feel free to reach out anytime, but we'll also make sure we keep you guys in the loop as we're organizing things.
Mark, can I just
Yes.
make a comment? Farrah had mentioned about the love letters. I don't know how many of you are giving the letters over for your buyer, to the listing agent, attaching a picture of your clients. That's something that is really like frowned upon, because that's where, people see somebody face to face and they're like, oh, I don't want that family or that group or that, whatever they may think about a person. I don't want that person to take my home, and you don't part of that. So CAR does have some write-ups. If you guys look, they send out emails constantly, but if you just open them, or you can put it in if you go to car.org and type in the search for buyer love letters, they'll talk to you about that, and you'll be surprised how much people are violating all types of things, saying, oh, I have a family of three, and I have this, and I have that, and I'm this, and I'm that. And people choose a family over a single person, which there is a lawsuit going on right out with a realtor that shared with me, where in their office, well, not just me, we were in a group, I should say. This is where they feel like it's fair housing for familiar status. They took a family over the single person. And so they feel like they did it because of that. So just, you're on the call, now you know, search, find out, because that new form, we have the fair housing that was just put out on October 1st of 2020. Very important to read. And my clients are excited about that, very thrilled about that. Read it, understand it, make sure your clients understand it so you don't violate anything, because you may not be purposely trying to do it, but you know, there's things that we do, you know, unconsciously.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Doug?
Comment that CAR just put out an excellent webinar and a Q&A on those love letters. And I would highly recommend it and endorse what Kama Burton just said about this, because it gets us in trouble when we don't even know we're getting in trouble. And that's important. Or we're getting more important, we're getting our customer in trouble when they don't know it. And we really need to understand that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Great. Well, with that being said, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. Obviously, our special guest speaker, Farrah Wilder, and also our proud Realtor member, Vicky Lobo, for her Good Neighbor Award win with NAR. This basically concludes our meeting. Thank you so much. And I appreciate everybody's involvement and looking forward to our next meeting. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.